Play Saves the World, Episode 5, For Love of the Homing Pigeon.
This was an intriguing moment to see one of my birds spinning on the vent on top of the roof. It was pretty funny. And, they're just hanging out, having a good time here.
Hello and welcome everybody to Play Saves the World, a bi-weekly conversation on the meaning of play for human flourishing. My name is Daniel Hilty.
And my name is Kevin Taylor.
And I'm Thomas
and
Jones.
Our special guest.
The bird. Yeah.
The Birdman.
The Birdman.
Yay.
I wish I had a cool nickname like that. That's awesome. Welcome, Thomas. We are so glad to have you here.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
So we are coming to you today, dear friends, from a few different parts of the country, of the United States. We have listeners from around the world, but as always, Kevin's out there in North Carolina. I'm here in Missouri, but Thomas, the Birdman, Jones, you are about halfway in between. You're in Ohio. Is that right?
Yes.
How are things out in Ohio this morning?
Well, right now the weather's great. It's nice and calm and cool. It feels good. We got 70-degree weather right now.
Oh, that sounds really nice.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, we had a very stormy day yesterday.
Okay. It's a little bit hotter here. We get. How about North Carolina, Kevin? Are you in the throes of summer?
It's fine. Yeah,
it's fine. Yeah,
upper 80s. It's not as miserable, but yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, we are so excited to welcome Thomas Jones, the Birdman, to Play Saves the World. You know, this is people who have listened to this podcast before aware of this already. This podcast is kind of dedicated to the idea that play and playfulness and hobbies and the things we do for the love of it really are the most important things in life. The stuff that gives life meaning, and that sometimes we can start off going down a road in life because it interests us. We have fun doing it. It's a hobby. It's playful in some way, and it can turn into so much more for us as well. It could be our life's calling, a vocation, a sense of what gives our life meaning. And Thomas, that is, I have to say, kind of what really, caught our attention about your wonderful videos about the love of the homing pigeon, and you have had this wonderful journey with keeping pigeons, homing pigeons in your life, and so we'll get into that in just a moment. But before we do, Thomas, would you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself, please? Just kind of introducing yourself to our listeners this morning.
Well, I'm Thomas Jones. Again, I'm from Dayton, Ohio, and I've been blessed to be I guess you would call it a naturalist, a nature lover, which started in my early childhood. So I think I can go all the way back to when my great grandma lived in Louisiana, and she had chickens on her farm, and so I think it was an imprint with the birds at that time that kind of brought me here. But but besides pigeons, I mean, I do a little construction work, things like that. Have children, and we just enjoy living life. That's basically where I'm at right now.
What is it about nature? What makes you a nature lover? What does it give? What does it give to you?
The nature gives me a sense of freedom, a sense of calm. It brings me closer to knowing that there is a God, when I see the wonderful creatures that he has created. And I am just overjoyed with how it's been placed in my life, to be surrounded by such beauty. I can go on and on about what God has done for me through these animals, but I've come to love them, not just pigeons, but our animals abroad. I mean, different types of things, all the way down to the little fishies, like I was just telling you about earlier. So, it's just a joy to have.
Yeah. One of the things that strikes me with animals, there are some that are affectionate, like dogs, sometimes cats. We've got a cat that's not real affectionate, but sometimes cats. But fish and pigeons and others aren't really affectionate, right? So how would you analyze that? Like, I know what you're saying about or chickens, they're kind of calming and they're curious, but they're not going to get in your lap, right? So
yeah, I mean, I have roosters out back. I have roosters and chickens out back, and I do have pigeons that are tamed, so they are. It would surprise you, because like the way they fly to me, when they see me. So they have that dog like attitude, you know what I mean? So I have one back there. Her name's Little Blue, and she knows when she sees the peanut bottle. Here she comes, and then her mate his name is Big Black, same thing, they're right on me. So they can be affectionate, but they're affectionate for a reason. They're looking for that food.
Sure.
Yep.
If I, as a dog owner, I have to admit, I love to think about how affectionate our dogs are, but if I'm being honest, they're affectionate for a reason.
Yeah.
They know where their food comes from.
Right.
Yeah, that's
right.
true.
Yeah.
That's true. And
well, I have
Little
a fish
Blue,
tank. Go ahead, Daniel.
Well, and Little Blue and Big Black, they are the parents, as I recall from your videos, of Big Blue, right?
Right. Yep. Yeah, they have several sets of babies, but
you have a wonderful.
But they have several sets of babies, but I kind of identified a few of their babies, like I took personal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's cool.
Right.
Great.
Yeah, well, my fish will rise up in the tank as I come down, and I don't know if it's just me. I doubt it, but they definitely come up to greet me because they know I'm going to feed them.
Exactly.
So I enjoy watching them interact. But there are animals that you're much more distanced. There was a very funny Reddit conversation that I wish I'd preserved, but it was basically people talking about strange pets they'd kept, like snakes and spiders and things that gave them no affection at all, and then they've since died, and how much they absolutely miss them. They're like,
interesting.
Wow.
A spider, and he was really grumpy, and I had to feed him these grasshoppers, and now I really miss them. Yeah, it was really cute how we can find calm and love in things that aren't actually
right
affectionate towards us. Plants are that way. Even a sunset, like we enjoy it, but it's very one-sided, which I think is kind of beautiful too.
Yeah,
exactly.
It is calming, as you said.
Right.
Yeah. So you mentioned pigeons, Thomas, of course, and that's why we're talking. And I wonder if we could return a little bit, if you don't mind, please, to a conversation the three of us had right before recording, which is, we hear about racing pigeons and homing pigeons, and then of course there's just the pigeons we see in the cities. And so if you don't mind, just kind of, for people who don't know very much about pigeons, like Kevin and me, if you don't mind kind of talking us through what are the differences between different kinds of pigeons, and then what makes them special. Yeah.
And also understand Daniel's had a weird fascination with homing pigeons for a long time.
I have.
Mostly I hear about homing pigeons.
I've read a book on it.
Did
You're
you?
like, you're like a hero to me. I'm so excited to talk
Yeah.
with you about pigeons because I've been so interested in the subject for a while. So
Daniel
yeah,
wants to
Okay.
design a board game with homing pigeons.
I do.
As a
Ah,
I
theme.
do.
well, that's interesting, Daniel. I want to make an animated movie about homing pigeons. I really do. So I really,
That would be awesome.
yeah, I got some funny things in my head about, just to make a really good movie, kid-friendly movie with homing pigeons. I think would be great.
I'd love
Yeah.
that. I think that would
So
be
just to answer
fantastic.
to your question about the different. Mhm. I don't know if we had a delay or
Oh,
something,
go ahead.
maybe
Yeah,
a
I'm sorry.
delay
Yeah.
there. Yeah, I was saying the difference in homing pigeons, city pigeons, and um, he called them carrier pigeons, is really the same thing, but they have been domesticated, okay? And they have been interbreeded with different types of species of pigeons to bring about the ones that are used for what we're talking about today. So if you go back, few
Okay.
you can go back
Okay.
to the World War One and Two. There was a pigeon by the name of Geronimo. You can look him up on the internet. He had actually received a medal for his activity in helping in the war. This bird went through being
Wow.
Wow.
shot, lost a leg, and still made it back to the base to let the other soldiers know what were they're facing, which is a really cool story about Geronimo. And there's some others who's had
That is great.
honor in that also. But I mean, you got to pigeons are numerous around the world, and most people don't know that um, the regular city pigeon, which a lot of cities refer to them as feral, and they want to get rid of them because they're so numerous and they claim they're messy and et cetera, et cetera. Um, um, so they introduce things like raptors to get rid of these pigeons and poisoned and
Hmm.
trapping and all these things to get rid of or to at least control the numbers of the pigeons because of how fast they can reproduce. Now, the difference between
Hmm.
the city pigeon and the homing pigeon is when you have interbred carrier pigeon and a city pigeon. This is where this comes into play at. You've taken a carrier. There's an actual pigeon they called a carrier pigeon. So when he's interbreeded, you get
Okay.
what we call a homing pigeon, and you can also distinctively
Oh.
identify them by a look. Okay, the regular
Hmm.
city pigeon, he's going to have a more of a slender bill, and it's what this little white piece on his nose is called
Okay.
a sear or a wattle. It's going to be actually very smaller
Okay.
than when you see a homing pigeon. And I have a surprise for you here, just kind of give you an idea of what I mean by that. So this here. This is one of my words here,
Oh,
and his wattle. Yeah, this is Slater, by the way. So this is Slater, and Slater's 2 years old,
Thanks later.
and he has the typical um, look of, and he's a true homing pigeon. So he sees
Okay.
something over here because I have some snacks here. He sees these peanuts in my hand. You want that? Yeah. So, but yeah, he's a
He's
natural homing
beautiful.
pigeon.
he's
Yes.
beautiful.
Now, looking at
Okay.
a city pigeon, you're going to see a slight difference in that bill. It's going to be a lot thinner. It's not going to be the
Okay.
same, and also the most of your
Okay.
racing homers are a lot bigger too. Yeah, but this
Okay.
is our boy
Okay.
Slater.
Hello,
Yeah,
Slater. Thank you. I think
yeah.
Slater is the first non-human guest we've had on this podcast. Thanks.
think that's
What a
right.
wonderful surprise. Thanks for arranging that. What a wonderful surprise. I love
No
that.
problem. No problem.
Oh, that's so interesting. And so the carrier pigeon, the homing pigeon, I mean, what and you talk about Geronimo and being able to, to deliver these messages and the kind of reconnaissance and the war.
Sure.
So all of this is built around the pigeon's ability to what is it? So it always finds its home. Is that how this works? Like no matter where you put it, it always comes home again. Is that how this works?
Yeah. So yeah, what it does, you take the pigeon and you actually wherever your location is, wherever their home base is, that's where they know to come to. So once you've got them acclimated to your home or wherever you're going to have the loft set, you begin to take these birds just slightly away from the house, a few miles at a time, to get them used to flying back home. So that way, when you start doing
Okay.
long distance flying, they know that they have, they know that they have to navigate back to a certain place. So with mine,
Okay.
I take these birds and we take them maybe 2 or 3 miles out at a time when they're young, till we get to about 50 miles to see how well they can return home.
Mm.
But I've lost birds
Mm.
just 2 miles away from the house. You know what I mean? So they can get
Mm.
lost. But for the
Mm.
most part,
Mm. Mm.
wherever their home is, they're going to come back to that spot. Unless, of
Okay.
course, they get
Okay.
attacked.
I know in some of the videos that I've watched, you have sometimes when a pigeon gets lost or they won't come back, you'll send out like other pigeons to kind of entice them back. Is that right? And how does that work?
Well, what I'll do is if I have a bird that has never really flown back to the loft, or maybe it's their first time learning, sometimes I'll go grab what I call veteran birds, and I'll take them back to that
Okay.
location where I let those birds go, hoping that that bird will follow because they know each other.
I see.
And that's happened
Okay.
several
Okay.
times where I've gotten that process to work.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
No problem.
Have you seen some of these studies and things they've done where crows can communicate? Like they have someone in a brown jacket be mean to some crows, and then they found that crows in another place know about the guy in the brown jacket.
Really?
Yeah, it's sort of showing that somehow they are telling each other, look out for the guy in a brown jacket. Yeah, there's some weird stuff out there.
Yeah,
Huh.
crows are very highly intelligent creatures. And the raven and the crow, which is in the same family, I mean, they're very intelligent. I remember going to a zoo, and the crow was trained to take the money. You would hand him some money, and he would go put it in the jar. It was really cool to watch. I saw that happen. So you pull out
That
your
must have
dollar
been
bill
thrilling
and
for
come
you
get it.
as a
Hey,
bird lover. That's
we should
awesome.
we should use crows as our ushers at offering time at church. That would work out
Right.
fine. They could just go get the. You
Exactly.
don't need baskets. Don't need plates anymore. We could just.
Exactly. They'll come and get it.
And if they ain't putting enough in, you send in the predator bird.
Right, exactly.
So Thomas, how did this all start for you? How did you first become interested? You mentioned your great grandmother
Mm-hmm.
and in Louisiana, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of falling in love with nature through her. But how specifically did you become interested in pigeons and keeping pigeons, raising pigeons? How did that begin for you, please?
Yeah. Well, when I was, like I said, a little younger, when I first found my first pigeon, there was a apartment complex that I used to go to, and on the complex they had these slotted roofs that I would climb up on. And I basically robbed nests of pigeons, robins, sparrows, you name it. And but with the pigeon, I found that,
Hmm.
wait a minute, this bird is very interesting because it didn't leave me. The robin will fly away, the sparrow would leave,
Mm.
the mourning dove, it's gone. But the pigeon would come back. And I thought that was very interesting.
Wow.
And so I kind of fell in love with it
Yeah.
at that stage. And I think then I was probably about 11 years old, probably around 11. And I remember
Mm.
the first time
Mm.
bringing a
Mm.
bird to my family and allowing them to see, okay, I'm going to bring this bird to you and I'm going to let it go and I'm going to go back and get it. Because where I was keeping them at the time, I knew it was going to fly back there. So, and this particular bird's name was
Yeah.
Geron. So I let the bird go. And I told my family, my uncles and all that, so I'm gonna go get this bird and bring it back. And sure enough, I bring this bird, same bird. I let them know it's the exact same bird. You know, they didn't have the identification rings that I have now on there. I didn't know how to acquire that. So I used to, at my school, I know I'm probably gonna get in trouble for this,
Yeah.
but if you notice on the on the on the file cabinet, there used to be a number. And it was a file cabinet. There was a stuck on there. It was blue and silver. It was a long little number, and I would take that aluminum number and strip it off the file cabinet and cut it and make a ring out of it. And I put it on my bird's leg
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
leg ties.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I could see bread ties too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
did that just so they can know it's the
That's so
same bird.
interesting.
You know what I mean? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no one taught you this. You kind of figured it out on your own.
No one taught me this. No, sir. You
Is
know,
that right?
and that's why I
That's
attributed it to God,
amazing.
because I felt like it was, as much as trouble that I went through dealing with the pigeons and just nature itself, because I used to get in trouble for it. Stop climbing those trees. Leave those birds alone. Stop taking those eggs. Stop doing, I didn't know that it was leading to something. I never knew that, so,
Yeah.
Mm.
I just
Yeah.
knew that I had a love for them, but I didn't know where it was taking me, and it's been amazing. The journey has been
Yeah.
amazing.
When you first discovered those pigeons, that they would come back to you and no one else came back to you. I mean, can you talk a little bit more about that, please? Just like, what did that mean to you, or what did that feel like? I imagine that must have felt
I
pretty
felt
special.
like I found a friend or some friends that
Mm.
I could depend on, that I can rely
Yeah.
on, and because I was always a loner type of kid, what I mean? I was just one of the kids. I'd wander
Yeah.
away and, and I'd be into nature, so you looking for me, I'm
Yeah.
somewhere
Mm.
planted in a backyard with these birds. And but when
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
found a friendship, with them, I mean, I felt like that I finally found that connection. There was a connection there with the birds.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
people would let you down,
Thank
the
you.
bird didn't let me
That
Ouch.
and I, to our listeners and our viewers, if we encourage you to check out Thomas's videos on YouTube, that really, I have to say, as someone who has seen the videos, that really comes through. Your love and your tenderness toward the pigeons. I mean, you can tell that they
Yeah.
mean a lot to you, and that they're
Yes.
yeah. I mean, that they're an important part of your life. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I love that. Um, so, um, if I may ask, I think I remember you saying at some point, and correct me if I'm wrong, the phrase like pigeons saved your life or something like that. And maybe I'm wrong, and stop me if we can cut this out if I'm
No, you're
misremembering
good.
that.
You're
But
good. You're good.
is that fair? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Would you mind saying a little bit more about that? What do you mean when you say
Yes,
that?
I mean, growing up in the city, I was surrounded by temptation. There's all kind of things that you can get pulled off into, and I feel like God allowed me to be surrounded by these creatures that kept me away from a lot of things that I could have gotten involved in as a youth when I was growing up. So I attributed that to saving my life. What I mean, when I think about some of my friends and what they were doing, and then here I am, like, oh, there's the Birdman, or that's I actually acquired this name, growing up, and but the birds actually were good for me. What I mean? It kept me away from a lot of things. What I mean? And I did venture away from the birds. Obviously, I grew up. What I mean? So I kind of ventured away, but that love was still there, and we reconnected. So I've been dealing with them pretty much all of my life, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's great. That's great. Thanks.
Yes.
When Kevin, you mentioned that and it's true that I am really fascinated with homing pigeons, but I don't mean to dominate the conversation. If I'm talking too much, you feel free to jump in too.
I will. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Good. May I ask, so a little bit about what you were saying, Thomas, just now too. You said you kind of ventured away from birds, and then you went back in and you kind of rediscovered them. And that's a pattern I think that Kevin and I have talked about in other episodes, and just in general with the topic of play and playfulness and creativity and hobbies in life or things like that. And as Kevin said before we went on, that's in no way to be dismissive of anything.
Sure.
We think that play saves the world. It's kind of why we're doing this podcast. But that's a pattern that often seems to happen where, like, you discover something in your childhood and you love it, right? You just love it. It means so much to you. And then you grow up a little bit and you're like, oh, I got to be an adult now, right? Oh, I can't do this because that was childish stuff. And then at some point you rediscover that there was something really profound about that. And that in some ways that was a gift from God, that thing in your childhood that you thought you had to distance yourself from.
Right.
And you return to it. And if I met, what was there, does that kind of parallel any of your experience? And was there something that was a tipping point for bringing you back to the birds again, or?
Yeah. Well, like I said, when I was in Piqua, the 7 years that I was living there, my younger kids didn't know really about how I was they never knew the real connection that I had with these animals. And one day we were at a pet store, and there were some doves being sold at this pet store. I think they were called ringneck doves. So they're in the pigeon family. So we end up getting these birds and bringing them home. And one of my other sons found a pigeon's egg somewhere. He got it out. He got out of some nest he found. He brought the egg home. And my doves were already breeding in the garage. So we set this egg underneath the doves. And obviously we hatched this pigeon out and raised this pigeon. So my neighbors, this was really funny, seriously, but because the house I showed you in Piqua in the video where the garage was, when that pigeon grew up, I used to raise the garage and let it out of the garage and back in the garage. And people were like, what's, they didn't understand what was going on. This bird coming in out of the garage. But that's how I got back into it. That was in 2007. And so he brought that pigeon egg home, and the whole pigeon thing started all over again. And that's where Jones Racing Pigeons was born at, in Piqua. I met a guy there who was in one of my videos named Michael Anderson. And I met another gentleman by the name of Dick Hughes who lived in Sydney, Ohio. And both of them were avid pigeon fanciers. One, both of them had ties to racing and things like that. So, and that's how I got my first set of true homing pigeons, was through Michael Anderson and Mr. Nick Hughes. So that's where that came in at with the homing pigeons. I went from city pigeons to domesticated homing pigeons, and I haven't looked back since. Yep.
That's great. That's great.
So a city pigeon will not go home like a homing pigeon. What would a city pigeon do? It would just go somewhere else?
I can hear you. Say that again.
A city pigeon will not go home. Is that right?
Oh, it will.
Are y'all not hearing me?
He has the same. Yeah, I hear you now. I hear you. He has the same ability. He has the exact same ability to home. They just don't have that. Some of them don't have that long distance in them. You have there, like I was telling you before, you have different different bloodlines of pigeons or pedigrees, and you have one that's called a Trenton pigeon, who's a bigger, heavier bird, and it's known as a 600 miler. It's a long distance flyer. Then you have another one.
Wow.
Yeah. Then you have another one named a Jansen pigeon. It's a Jansen. And that bird is known for speed. So he's known for speed. So a lot of people like to breed the Jansen for speed, the Trenton for long distance, and then you have a Fabray that's also in the middle, long distance speed at the same time. And that's what Slater is. Slater's a Fabray with a little mix of Trenton in him, but he's a Fabray.
600. Huh. And how does one raise pigeons? What's that look like?
How does one raise pigeons? Wow. Man, that's
no, race, like racing.
Oh, race them.
Race.
Oh,
yeah. Excuse me.
How
do you race them?
Yeah. Well, there are various racing clubs all over the country. And with us, there's a racing club called MVS, the Miami Valley Racing Club here in Ohio, where you become a part of a racing club, and whatever's going on, I don't know, in some other parts of some other state where you would want to do a 100-mile race back to your location, you would simply enter your bird into whatever category you want to be in, the 100-miler, 200, 300-miler, whatever you feel your bird is capable of doing. And you actually ship this bird to that location to be entered into that race, and you have to pay a small fee for that. And on race day, which is usually on the weekends, they let them go. They have radio chips in their leg band. I should have brought one of those birds in to show you that, but they have radio chips in the leg band to so as soon as they get to the loft, it clocks them in and lets you know that bird's speed, time, everything. They can monitor which direction he took, all that kind of stuff. So
wow,
that's how you do the racing part of it. So then you'd be lucky to, win that $1,000, or, in some cases, much, much higher prizes are won in the racing pitches.
That's so interesting.
How did they do that before the radio bands, I wonder? Did they have racing pigeons in competitions?
Yeah, they had a clock band. So instead of a
clock band.
Yeah, they had a clock band. So it's like a little rubber band, and they would put that little rubber band on the bird's foot. When it got home, the actual fancier had to be watching. You had to be there, like, stoically paying attention to this bird coming in. And when that bird would come in, you would immediately get that bird and grab it and get that rubber clock band off and put it into a clock. So you put this in a clock, and then you twist it.
Wow.
and then that secures your spot in the race.
Okay.
So
And how do
interesting.
they deal with the fact that you, like, if you're in the competition and I'm in the competition and we live several miles away, it's going to be a different distance, right?
Right. Now, so like if everybody has to be kind of equal in race, you want to be fair. So, um, I mean, obviously everybody's not going to be lined up perfectly, but you want it as close as possible. Um, if I've understood that question correctly, you want to be
Yeah. So would
within
they
a certain
release
amount of
all the
miles, I guess, with each other.
right? So they don't try to release the pigeons in different locations. They'd release them all at the
No,
same time from a
same
place that's
time,
about
same
the same
starting point.
distance.
Right. So, and then as those birds
Weird.
take off,
But they got to
they
find
all take off. I said, as those birds take off, they all take off together, and then you'll notice they'll start breaking off into little groups, going to their respective places, which is amazing. It's like watching
that's
airplanes
so
go.
crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's like watching airplanes fly to Atlanta, to Florida, to wherever. They kind of break off and go to their little spots.
Huh.
This is reminding me of something that I'm trying to look up here. I
Okay.
don't know if
Okay.
I will be able to find it or not, but feel
Well,
free to keep
I will
talking. I'm
ask
sorry.
I'll ask Thomas then about his ministry of releasing pigeons at funerals and weddings. What's that like?
Oh, it's been beautiful. It's for me, it's a joy to kind of bring some type of joy to a family that's going through, and how that started was a friend of mine was shot and killed in 2011, and
Hmm.
at that point, he was this particular gentleman that we grew up with. Um, was basically the catalyst for me to do what we call dove release programs. And so since 2011, I've been flying these birds for families, and it's been a joy. I mean, the response that I get from families is it brings me to tears a lot of times. I have to sit back and kind of recollect myself because of the effect that they said it had on them about what we've done with these birds, and it's been really beautiful.
I You can find several of those videos of Thomas releasing pigeons at funerals, at graveside services on his YouTube channel, and you talk about people, saying what they mean to them, what that means to them. Would you mind sharing a little bit more about, like, what what are the themes you hear from them? Like, why do they find it meaningful? What do they say to you about it? We think it's beautiful. Yeah.
Well, I think for the most part, it's a release for them. For a family member that's losing a loved one, it's more like, I'm holding that loved one right now. I don't want to let them go, but that bird is more of or
Yeah.
more or used more of a release of a spirit, if I would,
Yeah.
if you may rather, and
Yeah.
if we look at it from a biblical standpoint, we look at the situation where the heavens opened up and a dove come down from heaven and landed on the
Yeah.
shoulder of
Yeah.
Jesus. And he says,
Yeah.
he's landed as a spirit as a dove, so those things are heartfelt, because for them it's like sending that spirit back to its creator, and that's basically what we're doing, is simulating, even though we know the person's long gone prior to, but we're simulating again the releasing of the spirit back to the creator. That's basically what we're doing. Letting that loved one go home.
But what I love, and what I love is that it's part of nature, as you were saying earlier. It's a very calming thing to watch birds fly or move together. And so what you're doing is just having that happen at a special moment. But if you contrast that with, say, releasing balloons or something, that's really artificial. Right. And it's bad, too, because those balloons are going to end up in a stream somewhere. Some poor fish is going to choke on it. Like the releasing doves is not harming anything. I guess they might poo a little on the cars or something, but you just wash that off. That's not a big deal. But it's natural, it's good for the environment, or it's not damaging to the environment versus fireworks and things like that. People getting their fingers burned off, all that stuff. Like, that's quite beautiful. Yeah.
Right.
Before we get too far from it, I just want to share the thing I was looking up. It's not super important at all, but just talking about the racing of the pigeons reminded me of a song that I heard a few years ago for the first time by a British folk group called the Unthanks. It's like the word thanks, but un in front of it. The Unthanks, and they have a song called "The King of Rome," and it's this really stirring song, this beautiful song about this man in London who raised pigeons and takes part in this pigeon race where he sends off his beloved pigeon to Rome along with all the other pigeon fanciers in London. They send their pigeons to Rome for a race back to London, and apparently the day of the race there is this huge storm, and so all of the pigeons are lost, but then a really long period of time later, I forget how many, whether weeks or even months, this man that the song is about looks up on the roof of his house and he sees his beloved pigeon. It's like the lone pigeon that's come back from this race, and he says, "Hail the King of Rome, you've come back." And it's a beautiful song. It's very stirring, and I can imagine that is somewhat of a sense of when you see your pigeons coming back. It's got to be a beautiful feeling.
Oh, it is. It's amazing, and it's just as amazing as it is hurtful when they don't return. You know what I mean? So, very amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Sure.
Yeah.
So there's the ones you really care about. You don't probably release them often, correct?
I try not to, because I care about every one of them, and so, but some of them that I really kind of get like gravitated to, I don't want to lose that one. I won't fly it. I won't fly it in a distance.
Sure.
I'll let them fly
I
here,
can imagine.
but not in a distance.
Yeah.
Because I had a situation yesterday where they were out flying yesterday, and a hawk attacked one of them, just right in the backyard yesterday. Yeah, I was out there, so I was able to save the bird, but he got a little cut on him. The hawk grabbed him, but he's okay.
How did you do that? How do you save a bird like that? Did you scare it off, or?
Well, the funny thing about it, I was telling some folks yesterday, I was out there and I saw the bird coming in like a dart. So as he was coming up over the roof, then hit the bird that was on the side of my house. I just went out on the side of the gate where it was at, and the hawk was attempting to take the bird with him, but the bird was too strong and got loose, and I was able to grab the bird and get him back to safety, but scared the hawk off briefly because it didn't leave. It stayed around because it was hungry, so it stayed around looking for more of the birds. But luckily, I was able to spare that one yesterday. It doesn't always happen that way.
Wow.
Every now and then I lose some.
you posted a video not too long ago about the aftermath of a raccoon, I know, attacking some of your pigeons as well, and that was very heartbreaking too.
Yeah. Yes.
Is that one of the questions we had was what's the hardest part of keeping pigeons? And I imagine, is that it? Is that the hardest part? Losing some of the birds?
That's definitely one of the hardest parts of keeping them. But I tell you, to be honest with you, one of the worst things is keeping them cleaned up.
Oh.
It's a lot of work, man. Especially when you have a large flock. I got 100 birds, so you got a large flock of birds, and they go like every 2 minutes, it seems like. So you have to. That next morning is rough. You got to keep the coop clean and re-clean everything. So that's probably one of the roughest things.
I imagine that's a lot of work. Yeah,
it is. Yeah. It is. Yes, sir.
That would make it hard to go on vacation too, unless you have someone you really trust to keep it clean.
I do have a few people that I can call on to if we go on vacation that can handle the birds for me. So I've been grateful for that too.
Good.
Yeah,
good.
They don't clean up though. Trust me, they don't clean up. They'll feed them. They don't clean up.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Well, this has been great. This is a whole nother world, so that is awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Thomas, for this conversation. This has been wonderful. Is there anything else that you wish we'd asked or talked about that we haven't talked about yet?
I think one of your questions was about a fun fact about pigeons. I was kind of looking over the questionnaire.
Yes.
And I was going to pull up the rest of them, but I knew one of them. Well, there is a fact that, in a pigeon, when he's flying, his heart beats at 600 times per minute. That's a fun fact for you.
600 times per minute.
And that's incredible. That's like unthinkable that a bird's heart could beat that fast. 600
times a second.
That's amazing.
That's
right?
Completely amazing.
10 times a second.
Yes.
That is amazing.
Yes.
Wow, thanks for sharing that. That's cool. I can't imagine 10 times a second.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Wow.
And then
wow.
I got one more surprise here. Thought I'd share before we go.
Oh, good.
And this is Wolf.
Good.
Say hello to Wolf.
Hey, Wolf.
Oh my gosh.
Wolf is so handsome.
Colors.
Yeah. Yeah.
How old is Wolf?
He's beautiful.
Wolf is 2 years old. Yeah.
Okay.
He's a 2-year-old bird also.
How long do they live typically?
Pigeons can live in captivity 20 years.
Wow.
20.
Yeah, you can
That's
get 20
amazing.
years out of them in captivity.
Okay.
Do they know their names? I assume not, but thought I'd ask.
Well, you can train them to know their name. Yes. Yeah. So they learn that.
Wow.
They learn that call. If you call them by name, they can come to you by name. Yes.
Oh my
Yes, they
gosh.
can. Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, they identify well. I mean,
And
they
was
really
Wolf-
do. Huh?
And
You said what?
Wolf is a different kind of pigeon. Wolf is a different kind of pigeon than Slater, right? Is that right?
Well, he's still a homing pigeon, but he's not a Fabre.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
It seemed like
obviously
his
he
beak
has
structure looked a little bit different.
he has a little bit more color, things like that. But yeah,
Okay.
he's pretty much the exact same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Got to work on your pigeon skills, Daniel.
I know. I'm embarrassed that I showed my my ignorance in front of the Birdman.
I was about to say that's not a Fabre. I picked up on that.
Thank you.
I'm just kidding, of course.
You're our first guest that had surprises. I love that. Thanks for doing that, Thomas. That was really nice. That was really nice of you. Yeah.
And your videos are great. I love the music behind it and the way you edit them. They're really well done.
Yeah.
So,
thank you.
It's awesome.
I'm trying to put together a documentary, and that's where we want to work on.
Ooh.
So I'll keep you informed with that.
They're very good. So how can people? Please do. Sorry.
You can find
How
me
can people find you?
on YouTube at Jones Racing Pigeons.
Right. Yeah, and check them out. To our listeners and viewers, they're just, as Kevin was saying, just really great videos.
Yeah,
we'll have links. And your love of the pigeons shines through, but also the love of the people you minister to through the pigeons at funerals.
Yes.
Really shines through. And you make them very personal and about your life and your story, and they're very meaningful. So thank you for sharing those with the world.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah. And Kevin, how can people find us?
They can find us at our link. Is it Linktree?
Yep.
And that address is, I'll let Daniel do that. It's
Linktree/Play Saves the World, but there's a dot in between the R and the first E. So it's Linktree dot
first
E / Play Saves the World.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or playsavestheworld@gmail.com. Yeah. And thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thank you so much. And Thomas, thank you so much. This has been fantastic.
Yes.
You're welcome. Yes. Thank you for having me again.
All right. Well, bye-bye, everyone.
All right. We'll see you. Have a great one.